And Nigel Farage, the UKIP leader, says the result means Nick Clegg's position is untenable. Well, let's get the views of the former Lib Dem leader. Sir Ming Campbell joins us live from Edinburgh, and very good to talk to you, Sir Ming. Now, you're known for your frankness, and over the years you've been with the Liberals and then the Lib Dems. You've had good results, you've had bad results. This has got to be, what, the lowest of the low?
Well, we had a pretty bad result in 1989 when we got 6% of the vote in the European elections. So we've faced difficult times in the past, but the way in which you deal with that is to dust yourself down, pick yourself up and start all over again. And my view, since you've raised the question of Nick Clegg's leadership, is that he is the person best qualified to take us through the next 10 months, through the general election campaign, and thereafter through the next Parliament. Because I'm in no doubt that it's his courage and resilience which will be absolutely essential in this more difficult time for us than we would have hoped.
But you saw that letter, didn't you, from some of the Lib Dem activists yesterday that more or less said about Nick Clegg, well, yes, you have done well and you've taken on the burden of governing and you've had to take some tough decisions, but you paid the price for that in terms of having the ear of the electorate. And to mix my metaphors, to move on to a rugby term, he's carried the ball as far as he can. Now it's time to pass it on to someone else.
Well, there were 200 people signed that letter. And of these, I understand some weren't even members of the party. The total membership of the party is 44,000. So I think one has to put it into proper context. The other context I would put it into is one which I think you'll recall, and it is this, that when we entered a coalition, Nick Clegg got an overwhelming majority of the members of Parliament, of the executive of the party, and indeed of the party as a whole. No one ever pretended it was going to be easy. And I understand disappointment, but at a time of disappointment, what you don't do politically is to indulge in what would be 6 weeks or even perhaps 3 months of damaging introspection while we chose a new leader.
OK, well, stay with the leadership, but what about the message and the delivery of it? Isn't it a dangerous thing for a political party to do, in effect, and it seems the Lib Dems have done, which is say, we won't listen to you. All the other parties, all the big parties are saying, right, we need to listen and absorb this result. You went into that campaign, you carried out that campaign saying, you are wrong about the European Union, we have to stay in. Now, the electorate seem to have been saying, well, some of us have doubts, some of us want to leave, we want a referendum, we want to think about it. The Lib Dems are saying, forget all that, you're wrong, we're staying in.
But what we were saying was we want to stay in a reformed European Union. And there are a lot of countries in Europe, like Germany and Holland and others, who, like us, are in favour of reform. But of course, if you want reform, then the way in which you do it in the European Union is to build coalitions for that purpose. Threatening to leave is hardly likely to persuade people that they should ally themselves with proposals which you may simply never be around to try and implement. And that's why I think it's perfectly sensible for us to say, look, Europe needs reform. It's a different institution from what it was when there were only 6 members. Started all those years ago in the immediate aftermath of the Second World War. But the essential values and the essential opportunities of the EU still remain. Can I just put one perhaps slightly wider point to you, and it's this. We are obviously inclined to look about all of this domestically, and then we look at it in terms of Europe itself. But there's one capital in the world which would look upon dismemberment or even dilution of the European Union with a great deal of favour, and that's Moscow, as evidenced by some of the behaviour of Mr. Putin in recent weeks. So we have to remember that what we do domestically here in the United Kingdom and what we do within the European Union can have implications well beyond the boundaries of both.
Well, always fascinating to talk to you, and thanks very much for making that point there. Sir Ming Campbell there, live in the Scottish capital, Edinburgh.